Very good evening and thanks for clicking on to the Sunday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Before I get into today's video, I want to look at the situation in North China. The temperature has reached an even colder level than -50. In yesterday's video, I talked about the coldest temperature since 1969 at Moe in the far north of China. But we actually have seen temperatures cooling even more so and recorded the coldest measurable temperature in Chinese history. But before I get into the exact numbers, I want to show you here that this tweet here by China Weather Nerds, out of the 7 times that Moe has recorded -50 Celsius, three have occurred in the past 3 days. So, of course, bearing in mind that the temperature has never officially reached the -50 Celsius mark since the 15th of February 1969, but yet, out of the 7 times that this place has ever recorded such a temperature, three have occurred in just the last 3 days. So, pretty remarkable stuff. And the coldest temperature being -52.3 Celsius. So that is pretty remarkable, actually, when you think about that one. And I believe there still obviously has to be confirmation in an official sense, but it looks as if the temperatures have reached the lowest values ever recorded in China. And that is pretty incredible stuff, actually. I'm trying to find the tweet here by our good friend Thierry Goose here because that kind of goes to show exactly what the situation is regarding. So I do apologize actually here for the delay in finding this tweet, but it certainly is quite impressive. So it looks as if the minimum temperature recorded, I believe it may have been this morning, but -53.0 Celsius was recorded in Jingtao. I believe that is an official recording, and it is basically the coldest temperature among official readings ever achieved in China. So that is very, very significant indeed. And of course, I spoke about the -62.7 Celsius in yesterday's video as well, which was the coldest temperature ever recorded in some parts of Siberia, of course, and the coldest temperature since 2002 in Russia overall. This was a scene here in parts of the Netherlands in the last couple of days here. So, of course, the milder conditions that have been pushing into the northern half of the British Isles, we've seen a core of very, very cold conditions getting driven south. So, very, very cold start of the day across the south of England. I'll show you that in just a second as well. This was a terrific satellite image captured here by NASA a few days ago of the snow cover across parts of the north of England, southern Scotland, as well as much of the Highlands. Also, a good swathe of snow across parts of Northern Ireland, Donegal, for example, which is quite interesting. But a terrific satellite image. I always love to see these images coming out from space of snow-covered ground. It just is a fascinating thing to see overall. But there is a lot of complicating things going on at the moment with regards to the Manjulian oscillation, pretty amplified at this moment in time. And our good friend James Peacock, based down in Hampshire, talking about the Manjulian oscillation, and of course the forcing and the basically the fight between the ENSO, the Southern Oscillation Index, and the position of the Manjulian oscillation. The kind of the El Nino Southern Oscillation Index has been kind of holding the Manjulian oscillation in phase 3, and it's trying to dissect the influence that may have on the overall large scale pattern. But certainly, what we do have at the moment is a situation where this was the scene a couple of days ago, by the way, at Loch Morlock in the Cairngorms here. There's Cairngorm Summit there, often the windiest place in the UK, but just a stunning Arctic landscape here achieved in recent days across the North Highlands here. And then what a contrast to today. So, same image, a couple of days apart, incredible difference overall. I'll talk about the Manchurian oscillation in just a second. I'm sorry that I'm going back and forth here a wee bit, as I often do. This is the temperatures here over the last day or so. So this was actually 10 to 5 last night, and very mild conditions across the north, across Northern Ireland, the Republic. Very cold conditions across England and Wales here. As we played through, the overnight period last night, we've seen a pretty marked difference in the temperature situation here, and I can't actually, can I change this? I don't think it's going to let me here, unfortunately. Is it going to let me? No, it doesn't. I don't know why it does that, actually. When the video was recording, I noticed here that it doesn't allow me to press those buttons. But temperatures last night here, here at my site, my personal weather station in the garden, didn't drop below 6 degrees last night. Yet we're seeing a temperature back down to minus 9.7 at Benson in Oxfordshire, and widely -5 to -8 Celsius in the southern, really from the Midlands down to the south coast almost into East Anglia. We had temperatures very, very cold indeed, very mild conditions, of course, west to southwesterly winds, and cloud cover as well stopped the temperature from dropping to any great degree. So let's have a look at the rainfall over the next few days here, and you can see that you can generally see with the track of the rainfall, you've got an area of low pressure here that's bringing a lot of messy conditions across the Mediterranean basin at the moment. And of course, with an area of high pressure centred pretty much just in the east of the Azores, we have little to no rainfall in this neck of the woods here. Spain, Portugal getting a bit of a break actually from the barrage of northerly winds, cold conditions, damaging winds at that in recent days during the past week or so when we were getting battered by the cold and snow. It was also affecting the north coast of Spain as well. Notice here that we are seeing a bit of moisture piling in to the north of Spain here, but generally speaking, there is a lack of rainfall and moisture in the UK weather pattern right the way through the upcoming work week here, thanks to an area of high pressure really stretching from the Azores all the way up to Scandinavia. But if we look at the overview chart here of the GFS, we'll skip back to the current situation here. So we're still in the cold air across England and Wales. Temperatures have, there will be places that have recorded a nice day, temperatures not getting above the freezing mark, while we've had temperatures in double figures across the north of the UK, thanks to these winds blowing around the top of this area of high pressure, originating in the subtropics and pushing into across Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, the north of England, but yet still locked in the cold air underneath this area of high pressure. If we look at the 850 millibar temperature range, you can see that here. So we've got this little wedge of milder air even at 5,000 feet above our heads. We've got a core of very cold air here over the continent, and so much so, in fact, that we've had snowfall down to sea level in Majorca, and that is certainly something that you don't see that every day. That situation where we get snow falling in the Balearic Islands. It does happen now and again with certain patterns, but it doesn't happen very often. But as you can see here, we'll play it through the loop. This is, of course, the latest run of the GFS, and it's only one of many, many runs. So I'm just giving you a snapshot of the latest updated model run. You notice here by the time we reach the middle portion of next week, we've got the area of high pressure kind of poking its nose up towards Iceland, and therefore we kind of have a cooler, fresher northwesterly flow, reintroducing colder air once again into the British Isles here. So if we go back to the current situation, we've got winds coming in from a west to southwest direction. By the time we reach Wednesday, it's coming in from a northwest direction. And if you look at the 850 temperatures here, you can see that the colder air at the 5,000 foot level is coming back into play once again. Go back to the overview chart and play through the loop here, and you can see we have got a kind of northeasterly wind coming in during the middle and second half of next week. So a mild start to the week, but turn colder during the second half of the week, but nothing really to write home about. Nothing like what we've seen in the past week across the north. But you notice the general consensus being that area of high pressure situated far enough to the west and southwest of the UK means that we're going to have this kind of northwesterly airflow quite often coming in over the top of that high and into the UK here. So to me, trends on the colder side of things. Looking at the mainland of Europe here, let's go back and you can see here that we have a fairly quiet picture, fairly chilly picture of that as well, with a nice 1039 area of high pressure centered over the north of Germany here. So a fairly quiet, a fair messy, trapped underneath this area of high pressure. We've got areas of low pressure affecting the Mediterranean basin, parts of the south and central portions of Europe. Fairly quiet across the continent. But as we can see here, with that area of high pressure kind of then focusing more to the west of the UK, we then open the door to systems coming in from the north, and we increase the chances of snowfall across the central portions of Europe as we progress towards the very end of January here. So I think it turns more unsettled and colder in the run-up to the new month here. And of course, it would be winter's final month. Incredible to think that, actually, isn't it? So we do have a lot of things going on at the moment here. The Magellan Oscillation is a bit of a confusing one as it rotates in through phases 4, 5, and 6, and that's going through the Indian Ocean into the continental maritime region here. There is some complicating factors going on at the moment here with regards to the polar vortex. Like I say, it is an interesting one. If we look at the northern hemisphere view and then we'll bring up the 10 millibar pattern here, you can see what the latest runs of the model is showing here. So wave 1 warming is now taking place. By the way, the polar vortex is actually still stronger than normal at the moment. Winds, the zonal winds circling the northern hemisphere at the 10 millibar level are stronger than normal. And then it's expected that wave 1 warming comes out of Siberia, pushes the vortex into the North Atlantic, as you can see here. And there is no great change in the overall situation. Strong warming, stretching the vortex. There is no split, as you can see here, according to this run. Then wave 2 comes into play once again, forces the vortex. It's pretty much a carbon copy of the last, previous several runs here. The point of the matter is, do we see a true sudden stratospheric warming? It looks as if, according to the models, it's becoming less likely that we see that taking place. However, my hunch still is that we will see some sort of a residual effect of this as we see the column. Do we see the coupling between the stratosphere and the troposphere? That is going to be the question. There's a lot of complications to this development, and it's going to be a hard one to call. But my hunch, my feeling still is that we will get cold spells during the month of February, possibly in response to this. Any cold spell that we have seen so far this winter, from the 1st of December right the way through to the 22nd of January, has not been in essence due to the stratosphere. The stratospheric polar vortex, I believe anyway, has not been a player in this winter overall at all. I think the Magellan Oscillation, along with other aspects, including the La Nina, has been the dictator to the pattern that we've seen this winter so far here. And I do think that we still have got plenty of winter weather to come. That is my feeling. And actually, if you look at the 60-day period, so this is going back through the past 60 days, actually the majority of the UK is actually below normal in terms of the overall temperature here. So Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland is firmly in the blues. They're showing that actually for the last 60 days it has been below normal. It's been colder than normal. And certainly, it actually has been a fairly decent winter overall, I think. And it is playing out the way I think thought it was going to play out, because I did have an overall milder than normal winter, but with plenty of spells of cold and snow. And the cold that we're seeing at the moment across the bulk of England and Wales is keeping that temperature down, and it's bringing the very strong warm anomaly during the first half of the month. It's really starting to chip away at that because of the chill that we've got going at the moment, and depending on how long this chill lingers, and I think it will through at least the first half of the week, we're continuing to bring that average down. We're going to start to warm the anomaly up, of course, across the north because of the mild conditions that we've got going. But during the second half of this upcoming week, we will take that off as well.